Right.
So what did you want to talk about exactly?
I was interested in the
corporate sponsorship stuff.
The idea of corporate sponsorship sort of becoming a middleman in a way.
I mean, it's nice in some ways because it kind of it's so much more blatant. It kind of gives you a sense of what the record labels are up to anyway. A lot of the bigger labels.
An acronym for do it yourself.
It's like you either play in a band, you put out records, you put on shows, you do a zine.
An urge to create on your own terms because it's all you have.
You do something that's giving back to the people, and it's not necessarily just music.
Basically anything where you're taking raw materials and making with them the final product, and you're not going through any other channels.
Define who you are, what you do, who your friends are, how you do things. Just assign that definition, and then in that, because there's no infrastructure for such an activity, then you just had to do it yourself.
DIY is anything. It's just like that you feel that you need to do it yourself, that there isn't somebody else, a corporation, a person, like a business that can help you.
There is no other influence except what we do and do not do.
Why DIY?
I think the reason we did it all ourselves is because no one else wanted to do it at the time.
You start because you wonder if you can make something.
Yeah.
Make something that matters.
Hop in a van and go out and have fun and meet people.
That unconventional thought, being able to do something because somebody tells you can't do that, or, making something because it doesn't exist or you don't like the way it's being made right now.
It's a way to make sure that your moral compass is exactly where you want it to be.
I think some control of our world when we stop taking those assumptions as givens.
Yeah, exactly.
And start making our own stuff.
And I was like, I want to fuck this up a little bit. I want to make it a little bit dangerous. I want to make it a little bit of an oddball, curveball that people are like, wow.
We wanted something that we could call our own.
DIY and punk was not really it wasn't like a clearly marked door for me, 1978. So it wasn't as if should I take this door or that door? What I was in search of was the counterculture.
People involved within that scene are constantly bouncing their ideas off of people that are very different than them, and you're forced to look at who you are and to realize, is this really what I believe, or is this not what I believe?
You could really do whatever you wanted. There was no limitation. The limit was your mind and physical space.
DIY is about primal necessity.
Start because you can. You start because you can, and because it's, I was fucking around with my friends in my parents' basement, and doing things that seemed right and natural and things that seemed exciting to us.
That's really what DIY is about. It's building a community of not even like-minded people, but people that you believe in and people that you trust. They can have different ideas and different opinions, but you believe in those people. And the more you can kind of create this tight-knit bond with a human being, I think that makes the world an easier place to be in and to experience.
Kind of protest and just challenging conventional thinking and rebellion, all that just ended up just being manifesting and really in sort of hedonism and self-destruction. I couldn't believe that was the only role for rebellion. That was the only manifestation of rebellion. I thought there must still be somewhere a counterculture where people are collectively like engaging in alternative thinking and assessing what was being told to them and deciding whether it made sense or not.
There's an ebb and flow to it. There's a gradual call and response, if you will. I think it's something that we've seen like countless times already, you know, like with like grunge in the 90s and, you know, punk in the 80s and 70s, and it's just like that shit reaches critical mass and then it's inevitable. And I think there's always a response to that comes afterwards. That's just like, well, if that's what you're gonna do, we're gonna go here now.
And so what I get frustrated with is the co-opting of the term in order to market to people. Because it does mean something very real to a lot of people, to a lot of kids.
You know, we don't allow major label bands to play here.
I don't want to connect with people in the process of commerce.
The goal of this is to be a safe space.
There's absolutely no, like, I know there's no corporate backing. We have no access to, like, the media. Like, there's no press agency it's just we make records that we hope will resonate with people, and we try to make them in a way that has an integrity of some sort, you know, that's not just, like, we know advertising works, right? Collectively, as a society, advertising clearly works. Hence the reason that some of the food that's the worst for you is the best selling. The most popular movies and TV shows are the worst, usually the worst art, you know. So obviously advertising works. The things that people buy is because this sort of recitation of being told that this is what they want. It's nice to think at the same time that there's another avenue in which you just make things that are real and you trust people to assess that on their own.
There are bands that care about being 100% honest and true to their vision and their expression. And then there are bands that don't mind compromising some of that in order to get to be a bigger band and to make music their living. I've never wanted music to be my living, it's just my life.
It gets mixed up, it gets commercialized, and you definitely worry about that, but at the same time, you hope that some of the seed message is getting through to people.
Car companies, energy drink companies getting involved in music. I think I overall just kind of find it funny because there's clearly no correlation between getting awesome bands together to play a show and you all of a sudden wanting to buy a sports utility vehicle. It's like, it doesn't work. And if they want to throw away lots of money and brand their name on it, I have no problem with it, because to me it doesn't work. I don't feel indoctrinated.
There's really good companies out there that, you know, can, if they want to get involved, it's from like a brand standpoint, it totally makes sense. You want to attach yourself to something positive and growing, and I think you know, if people are going to try and help us do what we want to do at the end of the day, if what they're doing lines up with our thinking, then I'm never going to say no to that, you know?
Yes, we do have corporate sponsors. There's a time, like but there needs to be rules. For us, this is just me personally, there needs to be rules and boundaries with corporate sponsors. Do we see eye to eye with this company? Would we, if we ordered a drink, would we drink what they're offering? Sometimes no, sometimes yes.
The reason that we didn't do those interviews is because they were lifestyle magazines. They weren't music magazines, in our opinion. They were advocating a certain lifestyle. And advertisers, including liquor and cigarettes and so forth, but advertisers were paying enormous amounts of money to try to sow their seeds into people who I guess were developing, and so that they would become, it's like a lifestyle thing. And we thought, well, we don't really want to, they were coming to us, we didn't go to them. So obviously it was important, they thought it would be nice to have us in their magazines, but our feeling was it only would bring a certain integrity or validity to the proceedings for them. What's in it for us? You know, lifestyle is something that marketers are very interested in.
You know, the Scion Rock Fest or whatever, and you go like, oh, we're a DIY band, like, to a certain extent, you're selling the idea of DIY band and not actually that, and that's not honest. So there's my problem with it, but at the same time, I don't know, you know in your heart if you're doing something from here or if you're doing something just for money, you know, and I think kids are smart enough to latch onto that as well and to see through a lot of that. I've found that to be true.
There's a sense of fulfillment in knowing that you made everything about that, and it's a special thing, and I hope that it continues to flourish and people continue to see the beauty in that. But at the same time, I think it's okay to concede at some point and say, you know, I'm out of my expert zone here. I'm going to pass this off to a friend.
You should be safe here from the corporate eye, from the, the rest of your day you spend walking around looking at not a million, but a ton of impressions every second.
And it all comes down to money versus effort. And if you don't provide these solid examples, people will not see a true alternative. I think it's dilutes music, dilutes the culture, but don't mistake that it's taking it over. Don't mistake that the culture is weakened by it, because there's so many great bands and so many great labels and so many other resources that are completely independent of corporate government incursion.
You know, there's a lot of bands that have to couch their art in commerce to continue existing if they want to exist.
Counterpoint.
Go ahead.
Depends on what you mean by sustain yourself as a band.
There's something that's being advocated to young musicians, or all musicians now. I hear it all the time, actually. The only way musicians can make a living is by doing making music for working with advertisers or having sponsorship or product. I don't believe that. I don't accept that. I understand that it might be the easiest way for musicians to make money. But if musicians, like, I feel like there's people who make music because they need to make music. There's other musicians who make music because they want to make money. And I'm very interested in the former and less so in the latter.
One of the things I'm happiest about is that I don't need to worry about making a living off music.
Yeah. Right.
At least, I mean, different kinds of making a living off music, right? That wasn't aimed at.
No, that's not what I meant. Yeah, I wasn't talking about like sustain your band.
I don't think we need to. I don't think we need to make any kind of compromises to sustain this band, but we're also not trying to pay rent with it.
Right.
But punk always sidesteps that. Like, punk may not even be called punk. That's how slippery it is. But if you're driving in a van and you're playing house shows, then that's where punk lives right now. The bands that are on major labels, there might PUNK might somehow be inferred to their name, but it's a totally different mission.
So if somebody is coming at you trying to co-opt it, they can only take what you give them. They can only take the extremities. They can't take the heart of it. And that's a hard thing to do, because what you see in an image is just the physical trappings, not the inside and interior of what's really happening.
When people are trying to make money on DIY and making money on this imagery and all of it, like Urban Outfitters, it's a fucking joke. Like that, like all of it is just embarrassing. It's just sad that that stuff exists, but everyone's trying to make a quick dollar. And sadly, a lot of people have an identity crisis and want to wear some like leather jacket with a bad band name on the back or something. I don't know.
I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm not saying their work is invalid. I'm not saying that they're ill of mind or ill of heart. I'm not casting any aspersion whatsoever. I'm merely saying that punk cannot be bottled and it cannot be sold.
My only thing is just to react to it, to just push back. It's laws of physics. For every action there's a reaction. You push back. It's like people are taking what I love, and making it some extra commodity that's just like, well, now if zines are becoming like, I remember going to a zine fest and it's just, I don't see any zines out here. I just see comics.
Be a critical thinker, a deep critical thinker, and think, why is somebody offering me something that looks free? Or why are they trying to be my buddy when they really are just highly controlled interests in a class war? That hasn't changed. How they present themselves has completely changed. And what people believe has completely changed. The apparatus of what they're doing it has completely changed. And you have to become smarter and smarter and smarter.
Well, music for me is not a fucking shill for a product. It's not something that stands out in the street and tries to lure people in. Music stands on its own. It's a form of communication that predates language. It's sacred. It was here before the advertising industry. It was here before the music industry. It was here before governments. It was here before, like, even organized societies. So music is actually a higher calling. And that's what I'm interested in.
I could do something like this, or, maybe somebody would want to read my story, or I have a recipe that, that's really good, that's like this, or I could do a zine. I stopped caring about what DIY was for me and what it could be for somebody else.
And that's a real important side of punk rock that has to stay alive. You can be the band or artist or writer or philosopher or dancer or actor that you want to be and say what you want to say and not have to worry as much about what the corporate entities are going to say about your art.
I've always understood has been to branch out and to kind of do it yourself with your band, with your record, and then with your community, with your family, with all of the people that you know and love, and then reach out into the community and try to give back there as well.
Start a an all ages space, start a small venue, start a zine, start a band, start a collective, start a group of people that will change.
There's an overwhelming static that people have to sift through to find those really great bands, records, songs, labels that they can gravitate to. And now it's up to you who's watching this to find those bands for yourself and find meaning in a culture that trickles down and is as strong as ever, but is also paradoxically as hidden as ever.
Like, you can keep out virtually anything, but water, that's coming through. You can't stop water. Water's gonna win. So, the thing about water is it hits a wall, and if it stops the wall, it goes sideways. It's gonna find its way in. And that's the way I feel about music and expression. Can't stop it. It's coming.